So we did the previous 7 ma'amarot of Rabbah, which were related to the question of Re'ah Nekuva. The only ma'amara of Rabbah that I'm not sure how it's related to Re'ah Nekuva is the 4th one, where he says, Hay Re'ah dekaima gilde gilde, okame hizvata keshera. That one I have to say doesn't appear to be part of the general theme of the 7 ma'amarot. The general theme of the 7 ma'amarot is Re'ah Nekuva. So for example, we have the first or the second ma'amar, Re'ah she'edima miksata. He'edima miksata, it became partially red, some wound, some puncture, right? Or that was the second one. The first one was Re'ah de igleda, that the membrane, that's like nekuva, right? The third one was Re'ah she'yavsha miksata. So yavsha is like a naked, right? And so the only one is gilde okame hizvata. That one wasn't clear to me. The 4th ma'amara wasn't clear how that's related to Re'ah Nekuva. So I have to leave that besarich ayum. But all the other 7, each one of the other 6 of the 7 ma'amarot were related to Re'ah Nekuva. Now we have a sugya, which is going to have 3 parts. Part 1 is statement of Rabbah, related to the Oנות of the Re'ah. Part 2, a story with Mariman making a Pesach related to the Onos of the Re'ah. And part 3, a story with Rav Asher also related to the Onos. So this short, let's call it 3-part sugya, deals with the question of Onos. And that's different than the question of Nekev. If you look at Harambam, Ilchot Shachita, Perek, Harambam there brings the 8 terefot שנאמרו לו למשה בסיני. These 8 terefot that were told to Moshe, they became the sort of the primary terefot. You have a total of 70 terefot, so that the 70 terefot are derivatives of these primary terefot. I think you might have asked that question previously, and you are correct. So you have the 8 primary terefot, and that branches out into 70 total terefot. So there's a total of 70 terefot. But if you look at Perek Hamishi, Ilchot Shachita, Halacha Aleph. Read it again. Chavod. And Halacha Bet. Read Halacha Aleph and Halacha Bet.
כבר ביארנו בהלכות איסורי מאכלות שהטרפה האמורה בתורה היא נוטה למות.
That's what terefa, by definition, is an animal that's injured such that it will die.
ולא נאמר טרפה, אלא שדיבר הכתוב בהווה.
Right. And terefa is a more common, what is a more common way in which an animal dies? That one animal, a predator, injured the other animal, the hunted. That's what terefa is. So it says, Ubasar basare terefa lo tochelu, הכלב תשליכון אותו. Right? Basar terefa, basar, I mean it was injured by another animal. נטרפה. Right?
כגון שטרפה הריב וכיוצא בו ושבריה ועדיין לא מתה.
It's still alive. Is that I can make shahita on the animal? It's still alive. Why can't I make shahita on it? Answer is, even if you make shahita on it, and even if the shahita is proper, it's terefa, it's notalamut, and therefore the shahita doesn't make it kosher, right? Okay.
ויש שם חולאים אחרים. אם יערו לה תחשב טרפה.
And there's also certain sicknesses that are considered terefa. That if it happens to an animal, it's considered that it's going to die. And therefore, if you do shahita on the animal and then you become aware that the animal had one of these sicknesses, it's terefa.
והן הלכה למשה מסיני.
Right.
ושמונה מן הטרפות נאמרו לו למשה בסיני.
So Moshe Rabbeinu in Har Sinai, 8 terefot were told to Moshe. I think the reason it says ne'emnu le Moshe b'Sinai because not every halacha le Moshe b'Sinai ne'emar le Moshe b'Sinai, right? In fact, sometimes halacha le Moshe b'Sinai, according to Shitat Rambam, and the Shitat of your Alav Shalom Shteda, Rambam Alav Shalom Shteda, Alav Shalom, your grandfather Alav Shalom, that halacha le Moshe b'Sinai isn't always to Moshe Rabbeinu, right? So Rambam in Hakdamat Perush Mishnah distinguishes between Kabbalah LeMoshe B'Sinai, which is Moshe Rabbeinu, and Halakha LeMoshe B'Sinai, which could be an ancient tradition of which we don't know the original origin for. But that's what he says, Ne'emnu lo LeMoshe B'Sinai, to emphasize, no, these were actually told to Moshe Rabbeinu when he was in Har Sinai.
ואלו הן, דרוסה,
Terusa is what we already said, that one animal literally stuck its claws inside another animal.
נקובה,
And nekuva is what we were studying in the previous sugyot, where there's a neck, if there's a puncture.
חסרה,
Hasira is what we're going to be studying now. Hasira is something is missing. And it's not anything that's missing. If you look at Perek Chet, go to Perek Chet, it's going to explain what, and this is the topic of our sugya, Hasira Kesad.
חסרה כיצד שני איברים שהן, שהם חסר מניינם, טרפה,
There's two organs that if something is missing in these organs, it's considered terefa. And those are
ואלו הן, הריאה והרגליים.
Re'ah ve'raglaim. We're not studying about raglaim now, we're studying about Re'ah. V'chamesh unot yesh la Re'ah. Now we have the question. Yeah, bring me the. We're going to use this. Now, imagine you did shechita on the cow. Imagine this is a cow. Okay, so this is a cow. So you did shechita on the cow, and now the cow is hanging this way after you did shechita. So you have the windpipe, which goes from the mouth, obviously, he's breathing, and the windpipe goes to the lungs. Okay? Now, the assumption that I'm making in this, and it's very important to be precise because right, left is relative, okay? So the assumption always that I, the shochet, am looking down at the animal this way, right? Here is his mouth. Here's the mouth. I'm looking down this way, right? And now the windpipe starts at the mouth and it goes down. And then you're going to reach the lungs. So the lungs is a right side to the lung, a main compartment, and there's a left side, So there's two main compartments to the lung. Again, the windpipe goes down, eventually it reaches these two main compartments. 1, 2. Above these two main compartments, again, the windpipe goes down. Before you reach those two main compartments, on the right side, again, my right side, this is my right side, and it's all relative to how I'm standing. I could be holding the animal this way, right? But that's not the way I'm holding it. I just want to make sure that we're all understanding each other. So before I reach the right side the right compartment of the lung, there's 3 lobes here. Above the right compartment and kind of adjacent to the windpipe. And then on the left side, again, this is my left side, this is my left hand, right? Looking at the animal this way, right? I hope you can all understand how I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the animal this way. There's 2 lobes, a total of 5 unot, a total of 5 lobes. So very important that we all know what we're talking about. Okay, so it should be chamesh unot yesh la re'ah. The unot are nekeva. So chamesh unot yesh la re'ah. 5 lobes or ears the re'ah has.
כשיתלה אותה אדם בידו ופני ריאה כנגד פניו.
Now, assuming again, pnei re'ah keneged panav, the front of the re'ah, right? That's why I had the animal, I'm holding the animal where I'm looking down at the stomach, because that's going to feel the front. The front is the stomach. I could have been looking down this way at the re'ah, and that would be the back. So again, we have to be talking. The spinal cord is here, and there's a rib cage. And under the rib cage and adjacent to the rib cage is the re'ah. I could look this way. But again, we have to define our coordinates so we all understand what we mean by right and left. So the correct coordinates are looking at the animal down. I'm getting the ventral view, not the dorsal view. I'm looking at the stomach, not the back, right? כשיתלה אותה אדם בידו ופני ריאה כנגד פניו, 3 מן הימין ו2 מן השמאל. Just like I said, there's 3 on the right and 2 on the left. Okay, that's what I want to read now. Now let's read the Ma'amar of Rabbah. Technically speaking, this is the 8th Ma'amar of Rabbah, right? Because we have the 7 Ma'amarot. But again, I'm dividing it into a different sugya because it's a different theme. The previous one had to do with Nekev and the Re'ah. This, which is one type of terefa shene'emra lel Moshe Sinai, Nekuva. This has to do with another type of terefa shene'emra lel Moshe Sinai, which is Hasera. You understand? That's why I divide into a different sugya. Okay, so read it. And this is Mem Zayin Amud Aleph on the top of the page. This is the 3rd class on Masechet Xulin. Hamesh Une It לריאה.
continue. Apa כלפי גברא, תלתה ממנה ותרתי משמאלה.
Okay, so you have, again, when the re'ah is facing you, and what does it mean facing you? It's all relative. When I'm looking down this way, so I'm looking here, my right side, 3 unot. My left side, 2 unot, right?
חסיר או יתיר.
So I'm going to just read the Girsah Varif. I hasir, I yatir, I halif. Much more pretty almost, you know? Very. I hasir. If one of the unot is missing,
Yeah.
if there's an extra una, or if it's switched, instead of having 3 on the right and 2 on the left, you have 2 on the right and 3 on the left. For example, that's halif. Terefa. Okay, that's it. That's a statement of Rava. And we have the Ma'amar. And now we're going to have 2 stories. And that's going to be the Sugya.
הוא יתרתה דאתר כמה דמרימר.
Okay, you had a situation where you had a yetereta, you had a lung, and there was an extra lobe on the lung. Now, from the perspective of the halakha, extra lobe is like haser. That's the same legal status as haser. Just so we can read Harambam, I believe he brings that. Go 1 second. Yeah, if you look at halakha daled, ilchot shahita, perek het halakha daled, nitosfu ha'unot b'minyanam. Right? No, I'm just don't read. I'm gonna skip. Nitosfu ha'unot b'minyanam. If you have an extra una, harizot terefa shehayater kehaser. That's the principle. The yater is like the haser. Okay, go up for a moment, please.
Yeah.
Okay, continuing. So we said חמש עונה לה לריאה. אפה כלפי גברא תלתה מימינה ותתה משמאלה. יחסיר, יתיר, יחליף, תלפה. Okay, good. That's what we studied. Now we're going to be studying a ma'aseh with Marema. Let me tell you a little about Marema. There were 3 great chachamim. I mean, there were many great chachamim in the 6th generation of Emoraim. There was Maremar, Morzutra, and Ravena. Ravena was a young Talmid of Rava. Rava was really 4th generation. Ravena was a young Talmid of Rava. We saw that Ravena is the one who asked Rava the question regarding Re'ah shehe'edima miksata. Okay, so he was obviously a prodigy, because he was at a young age asking questions against Rava, who was a Rosh Yeshiva Mechuzah. So he must have, again, he was a prodigy. I didn't just say it just like that, right? So the point is that these 3 Chachamim, Maremar, Mozutra, and Ravena, they were, let's say, colleagues, and they're mentioned all the time, or many times together. Now, Maremar was also the Rosh Yeshiva of Surah. So Maremar was the Rosh Yeshiva of Surah in the 6th generation. Okay, so now let's see what happened. So Maremar.
הוא יתרתה או...
Yeah, how יתרתה.
הוא יתרתה דאתה לכמה...
Yeah, I think it's the atai.
דאתה לכמה דמרימר.
Okay, so somebody came to Maremar with a yetereta, meaning a lung which had an extra lobe. We don't know. Maybe it was 4 lobes on the right. Maybe it was 3 lobes on the left. Doesn't say. It doesn't matter.
Abava.
Okay, Ravaha. He was a young Talmid. Ravaha. This is already. He was in the yeshiva, and he was 8th generation Emoraim, which is post-Talmudic, because the Talmud was done in the 7th generation of Emoraim by Ravena and his younger colleague Rav Asher. Ravaha was very young. Ravaha was very young at this point. He's sitting outside the house of Maremar, or the office of Maremar, where people are coming to ask questions in halakha. And you can imagine a great hacham, and you want to sit outside the office of the hacham. What did the hacham tell you? How did he answer your question? That's called shimush tamid hachamim. The great zechut that I had, humbly, is that I was with Shtetl a lot, and I heard him speaking to people and answering questions and saying things. It was zechut that I had. That was also l'shamesh oto, right? No greater zechut, right? Shimusha gedola limuda. Okay, but anyway, Rav Ahab was sitting outside. Yativ Rav Ahab by the gate.
אמר לי, מה אמר לך?
So he said, I want to know, how did he make the sack on the Tereta?
אמר לי, זיל, אמא לי.
No, אמר לי, אכשרה ניהלי.
אמר לי, אכשרה ניהלי.
He said for me, nihali means for me, it was kosher. Yeah, אכשרה ניהלי. I'm just going to see some variations in the Gifsaot, right? So here it says אכשרה ניהלה, but it's really אכשרה ניהלי. Okay.
אמר לי, הדר עילה כמה.
הדר עילה כמה.
עילה כמה.
So go back to him. There was a Yani. Ask him again. I think he made a mistake. I mean, he's not going to say he made a mistake. Chas v'shalom. You're not going to speak like that. How would never speak like that about Marima. So instead of saying he made a mistake, the Recheres, of course, he says Hadav Ayla Kameh. Go back to him. By going back to him, now Marimar automatically knows. Why would the guy come back? I just told him it's kosher. I just told him you just saved a $10,000 cow. You're going to lose $10,000. I told him it's kosher. Why is the guy coming back to me? Obviously, Rav Ahab told him to come back to me. You see, you don't even have to say anything. You just went to a hakam. Oh my gosh. Oh man, this cow, $10,000 down the drain. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
The cow could feed I don't know how many people. And he says, normally, Hakam says, it's kosher. What do? You run and you don't look back, right? You run and you don't look back. Here, go back. So immediately, Mariman understands what happened. It was Rav Ahab who sent him back.
אמר לי, זיל אמה למאן דעתיו.
זיל אמה
למאן דעתיו, אבבה לתלחתה כבתה דרבה ביותרת.
So he says, go back to the person who's sitting outside and tell him that the halacha is not like Rava in Yoteret. Meaning, even though it had an extra lobe, it's kosher. Halacha is not like you think, halacha is like Rava. No, halacha is not like Rava in Yoteret. Okay. But okay, now let me tell you what's happening here. This is a very difficult sugya. And the nosach is very difficult, the way we have the printed editions here. It's very difficult. There's going to be a story of Rav Asher that in order to explain the story of Rav Asher, the next story, according to this nosach, we're going to have to make things that are not in the book. So I want to save you the agmat nefesh of reading to you the current nosach and explaining you the current nosach as they explain it. And what I want to do is just, skip that. I want to read you the nosach as it appears in the Rif. And I looked at some of the older manuscripts, and it wasn't easy. There's some divergences, but this is the way I understand the nosach to be. I'm going to read it now. When do we say letil chita kerava? Meaning, when do we say that if there is an extra lobe, the animal is kosher? Mikama, when it's in the front. Now remember, we kept saying that the front of the animal, remember I made a big deal, what's the front? So you look at it from here. So the ventral view is the front, because logically this is the back of the animal. So this is the dorsal view is the back. So what does front mean? So here you have the lobes of the animal, right? From the back, but then you don't see the lobes so clearly anymore. The lobes are really something you see in the front. So now, when do we say that an extra lobe is kosher? When it's in the front, right? Then the extra lobe is kosher. Aval migava terefa. So again, when do we say that if there's an extra lobe, the halacha is now like Rava? Rava wanted to say it's terefa. We say no, halacha is not like Rava. It's not terefa. That's when the extra lobe is in the front, meaning either by the unot, right, by the unot, or on the front part of the, front part of the umot, somewhere there. If there's an extra lobe somewhere there, it's kasher. Aval migaba. But if it's in the back of the animal, terefa. Then we agree with Rava. Okay. I want to read to you Leshon Harambam. Read Harambam also. Read Harambam. Halacha Daled. Again, Perek Chet Mechila. Perek Chet Halacha Daled Hilchot Shachita. Look at Leshon Harambam. Nitosfu ha'unot b'minyanam. Chavod.
נתוספו האונות במניינם.
Extra unam, amash the question that came before Maremar.
אם הייתה האוזן היתרה בצד האונות, או בלפני הריאה שהוא לעומת הלב, מותרת.
If the extra lobe was besad unot, next to the unot, right? Meaning it's not technically on the ummah itself, but it's in between the umot on the same, in the front, right? Or somewhere in milifnei hare'ah, somewhere in front of the re'ah.
ואם הייתה
Shehi le'umat haleh, meaning on the heart side, because if you look at the animal, this is the dorsal side. The front of the, you have the rib cage here, extending from the spinal cord. Directly adjacent to the ribs, enclosed within the ribs, is the lung. The front side, the ventral side, you have here the lungs, and then you have the heart. This is the side that the heart is on. So if it's on the side that the heart is on, again, I'm going to read it again. Nitasvu ha'unot b'minyanam. Im hayta ha'ozen hayta besad ha'unot. On the same side as the unot is on, meaning the front.
Yeah.
Or milifnei hare'ah. Or even if it's milifnei hare'ah, shein le'umat halev, even if it's lower down, meaning where the umot are, where the omot are, right? The main compartments of the lung, even a little lower there, it's kasher, muteret.
ואם הייתה על גבה שהוא לעומת הסלעות, היו טרפה.
But if it was on the dorsal side, on the part of the lung facing the rib cage, right? That's terefa. Now you said something very nice. You wanted to repeat what you said. Why would it be terefa? Why do I care whether it's on this side terefa and on this side keshera? You said something nice.
Okay, it's possible that it's going to interfere maybe with the ribs.
With the spinal cord.
And then, yeah.
With the spinal cord, exactly. Maybe. Yeah, we don't know. Maybe like a push the rib into the spinal cord, meaning it perhaps that's speculation, but I like that speculation because it makes sense. And that's the important point. The important point is that when you have an extra organ, it's like a missing organ. Okay? So stop here. And now you see how Harambam, the Lashon of Harambam fits perfectly with the Maaseh. Right? He says, Zil, Amar le Zil.
אמר לזיל אמה למאן דעם אמה למאן דעתיב אבבה לתלחתה כבתי דרבה
לתלחתה כבתי דרבה. The halacha sound like raba. Okay? Now here, apparently the extra una was on the front. Right? לתלחתה כבתי דרבה ביותרת. I made a mistake. לתלחתה כבתי דרבה ביותרת. והנמילה מכמה. When do we say לתלחתה ביותרת? מכמה. Now here it says דקיימה בדרה דעונה. Most it's the same line as the lobes, meaning you have 3 lobes, let's say, on one side, and then you have a 4th one, let's say. Right? But you see the Rif and Harambam, they both say no. Mikama. You saw Harambam. Right? Mikama. Right? Aval migaba terefa. Okay. Aval migaba terefa. And again, I don't want to get into the whole, back and forth. And you can see how the word dekaima, bedara deone, the word dekaima looks like the word mikama. Kof mem aleph of mikama. So dekaima, mikama. You can see how there was a shibush in the noschaot. Benkach u benkach. Harambam and the Rif are the only ones I saw this specific girsayin with nosachin. But I will go with the nosach of Harambam and the Rif. I feel comfortable with that nosach. Okay. Now, let's read the third and final maaseh. It's right, and you're right, it's de'ateh. It is de'ateh. there was a situation where there was bene de'ateh lekame de Rav Asher. What do you mean de'ateh? Again, I'm telling you that the way the standard explanation, according to this girsa, people have problems. So they say, I'm not going to explain now. Okay. They have to be metpalpelim. I'm going to explain to you the way I understand the nosach l'shitat Rambam. Hahu bene de'ateh lekame de Rav Asher. There was a lobe, and it was bene. What does bene ben mean in Hebrew, or bene mamash in the middle?
כן.
In the middle.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the again, imagine this is the windpipe, and on either side you have lobes, right? You have lobes, and then you have the main compartment of the lung. Lobes and the main compartment of the lung. If I said hahu bene, what does bene mean? In the middle, meaning on the windpipe, and that's exactly where this lobe is. You're going to see in a moment. You're going to see the Maaseh. It makes perfect sense. The Lashon of the Gemara, I think, is simple. It's simple Lashon. You can see simple. No, the way we explain the Shitat Rambam makes perfect sense. So, Ha'u bene, te'ateh lekame de Rav Asher. Everybody has its nosach here. Everybody has a nosach. Ha'u bene, te'ateh lekame. That's a nosach, right? But they have a problem explaining it, because for them, bene means like on the front or in between. Okay, it doesn't matter. Ha'u bene de'ateh lekame de Rav Asher. Savar lemitrefa. Here it says savar Rav Asher lemitrefa. Okay, savar lemitrefa. What's savar lemitrefa? And he says, he should have said taref. He says savar lemitrefa. What is savar lemitrefa? He wasn't sure. But why are you not sure? Why are you not sure? We just said in the previous Maaseh, according to the nosach, the standard nosach, aval bene terefa. So why is savar lemitrefa? Savar Rav Asher, atrefe Rav Asher. What is savar lemitrefa? You understand my question? Yeah. According to the standard nosach, previous Maaseh, we ended by saying bene is terefa. Here, bene comes to Rav Asher and says savar lemitrefa. Madua savar lemitrefa? Atrafe Rav Asher should say.
Yeah.
So obviously, the nosach that we have here is not correct. Aval migaba terefa. Now, bene is a new inyan. Bene means exactly what it means. In the middle, kazeh. Not on the extremities, not on the body of the lungs, but in the middle towards the windpipe. Bene. You understand? So, hahu bene, de'ateh lekame de Rav Asher. Savar, and now you know why savar. Savar lemitrefa. I think it's taref. I'm not sure. It's an extra lobe. And we said, if you have an extra lobe, mikaba, we know it's taref. If you have an extra lobe, mikama, we know it's kasher. The problem here, it's bene. It's not exactly where the other lobes are, and it's not on the of the re'ah. It's in the middle, on the windpipe, or closer to the windpipe. And that's why savar lemitrefa, I didn't know what to do with this. Amar le Ravuna Mor bar Avia.
אמר לרבונה מור בר אביה, כל הנה חווה. So
it's חיווה בר יתה.
כל הנה חיווה בר יתה, הכי יתלהו, וקראו לה טבחי עינוניתה.
דברדה. Right. כל הנה חיווה בר יתה. These animals, if you look at, והנחש היה ערום מכל חיית השדה, שדה is like בר יתה. Chive bar yata. I don't remember the exact Targum Ankelos. So here, chive bar yata means the animals of the field, meaning as opposed to apparently, and we're going to see in Harambam, not all the animals have this extra lobe in the middle, right? So Rav Asher was not familiar with it. So he says, comes Rav Huna Mor bar Avia, and he says, no. This is very common among the animals in the field, meaning you look at the cows in the field, or the ox in the fields, or the sheep, whatever the type of animal, it's common. This extra lobe is common. So, kol haneh chive bar yata, I know you're not familiar with it, because apparently the animals you've seen don't have it, but this is very common. V'karu la tabache. The lobe that looks like a rose. Now, let me just show you the picture. It's a little hard. I don't know if you're going to see it. you see this lobe is like in the middle here. It's hard to see. It's like an extra lobe here. That's inunità devada. Now, where do you see it? You see it in the middle. It's inclined a little to the right, so it's actually resting on the right side, but it's in the middle by the windpipe. You see that? This extra lobe. That's called the inunità devada. It looks like a rose. Again, I don't know if you can see it here. Maybe, right? I think, yeah. You see it, yeah. Right? So it's bene. He wasn't familiar with it because not all animals have that. Savav, it's an extra lobe. What do I do with it? Comes Rav Huna Mor Bar Avia and says, no, this is okay. This is common among the animals in the field, right? אבל הגבה, אפילו כטרפה דעשה, טרפה. And this type of extra lobe that you have in animal is only going to be in the front, he tells them. It's not, you're never going to see this extra lobe in the back of the animal, right? So this inunità devaruda, you see it on the ventral side of the lungs. If you see something like that on the dorsal side of the lungs by the windpipe, right? Because here also you can have the windpipe appearing. So you say maybe you see inunità devaruda on the dorsal side, on the back side, meaning where the spinal cord is closer to there, but on the windpipe. Oh, it's an inunità devaruda. No, it's not an inunità devaruda. In that case, it's taref. So you see the way the sugya is structured is beautiful. We have the statement of Rava, and in principle we agree with Rava that if there was a yoteret or hasera, it's correct. It's taref. But there's a certain detail, and there's two separate issues. One issue is an extra unna, an extra lobe, and the other issue is what's known as the inunità devaruda. In the story of Maremar, we deal with an extra lobe. And the halakha is, in the front of the lung, the ventral side, the front, the side facing the stomach, kasher. On the dorsal side, the side facing the back, the side closer to the spinal cord, pasul, taref. And then we have a similar diyum with inunità devaruda, right? Now let's read Lashon HaRambam and then we can call it a class. Read Ilchot Shachita Perek Het Halacha Aleph, and go in the middle. Okay. Upsad yamin mimena. Here. On the right side, meaning rest, it's in the middle, of course. Inunità devada is in the middle. It's by the windpipe. Yeah. It looks like it's almost coming out of the windpipe, but it's resting on the right lung. So upsad yamin mimena kemo ozen ketana, looks like a little ear. But the unna is literally an ear. These lobes are called ears. Okay. It's not next to the unot because if you look at the picture again, where's the picture? Here. The unot are higher. And they're on the perimeter of the lung, on the outside part of the lung. This vered is in the middle. Yeah. See, so it's not beside the unot in the sense that the unot are on the outside of the lungs, and the vered is in the middle of the lungs. Okay. Understand? There's like a little pocket, I don't know, of flesh. Okay, again. The ozen zo ketana. And this is called the varda. Apparently it has the same color or shape of a rose. I don't know. Okay. This is not considered yetera. Right? And there was a hidush that Huna Barav Avia, Ravuna Barav Avia, told to Rav Asher, this is not considered yetera. אין אמין המניין. לפיכך.
אם לא נמצאת הוורד, מותרת.
Right. If you don't have the veret, it's also muteret. And apparently Rav Asher was dealing with animals that don't have the veret.
ויש בהמות תמצא בהן, ויש בהמות לא תמצא בהן.
Right, exactly. Right, so that's now. Now let's look at Harambam. Let's read Halacha Daled.
ותוספו האונות במניינם.
Yeah.
אם הייתה האוזן היתרת בצד האונות, או מלפני ריאה שהוא לעומת הלב מותרת.
Okay, so if the extra una was on the ventral side, the side facing the stomach, where the heart is, that area, we said it's muteret, much like the girsah that we have before us, right?
ואם הייתה על גבה שהוא לעומת השרעות, הרי זו טרפה.
If it's on the dorsal side of the animal by the spinal cord or by the ribs, where the ribs are, because the ribs are above the lungs, and that's this is literally the back of the animal, right? Then it's terefa.
שיותר כחסר.
Behu, and here's the point, שתהיה כמו עלה של הדס. That's the last thing we just read here. I didn't explain it. It has to have a minimal size. עלה של הדס. Has to be as big as a myrtle leaf. So if you have a una that's smaller than a myrtle leaf, אין האוזן מותרת. And I read again. אבל הגבה. If it's on top of the animal,
אבל הגבה אפילו
כטרפה דעשה טרפה. Even if it's like the leaf, tarfa means leaf, de'asa means myrtle,
Okay.
it's terefa. That's a minimum size. Now, so you see, so we learn from the story of Rav Asher two things. Number one, the law of the inunita de varda. Number two, the inunita de varda can only be on the front, not on the back. Number three, if it's on the back, then it's automatically a regular una. That's already una. I don't care whether it's by the windpipe or by the middle or by the side. It's an una on the back side. But we also learn that there's a minimal size for the unot. Ketarfa de asa. Now, get me the book of Bereshit. You see the my Torat Hayim?
Yeah.
Get the first volume of Bereshit, Parashat Noach, and I want to read to you what happens. V'hinei ale zayit taraf befiha. Right. So when Noach, he sends out the orev doesn't come back. Well, it's a mean bird, but the yonah, it comes back, right? And it says when the yonah returns, it says 1 second. So it says v'hinei ale zayit taraf befiha, right? There was a ale zayit. The yonah came back in the evening, and it had in its mouth like a branch of olive tree, and taraf befia. Taraf is the leaf, meaning it's not just that it was an olive branch, but it already had the leaf. You understand? So that means it was budding. It was growing. Not just an olive branch, a bare olive branch doesn't mean anything. But this olive branch had taraf. Had a leaf on it. You understand? So that's not the way. Rabbeinu Sa'ad explains it differently. Taraf karut. It was like nitrefa. But the way I understood it from Shdeda alav shalom, taraf befia, like this. Tarafa de asa, the leaf of a thing, and it makes more sense because karut. Of course, it was karut. I mean, the Yonah brought the whole tree. So what do I have to say karut, right? Of course. By the way, Stella said there was nobody greater than Rabbeinu Sa'ad and he was the greatest. But we can maybe climb on his back and see more than he saw. Alizai taraf is milashon tarfa de asa. You understand? Tarfa de asa. So it's a very nice point related to the Gemara. Right, next time we study Berlin, we'll do the next sugya.
Yeah.